coffee lover paradise.
I've never been, so the mug's all I got.
Yeah. All right, so we'll kick off. Welcome, everybody. We really appreciate you being here for the next edition of Computational Music. And today we're delighted to have a very special guest all the way from Los Angeles, early in the morning hours, Danielle Thwaites. And she's has so many accomplishments already. She is a producer, she's a musician, she's a fantastic vocalist. She's been a huge supporter and started the Beats by Girlz chapter in Los Angeles and has been a global supporter of the Beats by Girlz initiative. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little more today. One of the accomplishments we're most proud to see is the digital audio workstation we use in our course. Ableton historically had a very, very stringent training program to become certified. And I think until like last year, there was one woman in the world who had become a certified Ableton trainer.
I'll correct you there. It was just one woman in the States.
Oh, okay. In the States.
It wasn't too bad.
So Danielle is an Ableton certified trainer. If you're in my 137 class, you've used Danielle's videos when we were working with the sampler. So you know that she is a great educator, a great trainer. She has degrees from the Berklee College of Music, which is where Professor Jay also finished her terminal degrees. So Danielle, we're so excited to have you here. We really appreciate you giving us the time. And how are things in Los Angeles? We hear it's rainy out there.
Things are going well. It was raining all day yesterday. We had that atmospheric river. But the sun is coming up, as it always does here in Southern California. Things have been great. Live music is opening back up, which has been keeping me pretty busy.
Terrific.
And yeah, just, staying busy as best I can.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let's kick off with like a little background. So the students we have here at the college come from a wide range of backgrounds, but I think something that everybody has in common is kind of a need for bravery, right? I think in this day and age, we all have a need for bravery, but especially when you're a younger person, when you're an older person stepping into a new field, it can be really daunting in this time of the internet when you see so many accomplished musicians and accomplished music producers to be willing to step in and be vulnerable in the way you have to be in the field in any creative field. So what was that journey like for you? Like, how did you get the bravery to step into a field that's so expressive?
That's a good question. I don't know how great my answer will be. I suppose it's just, keeping the confidence that you have about yourself and about your position and not getting lost in the sauce. And that's my quirky saying, but looking at social media and seeing all these successful people, seeing the people I went to college with, having Grammy nominations, you just can't let that stuff become a deflection for what your goals are. So just don't get lost in it. If you have the goal to do something, if you have the idea that you want to be at a different position in your life, you just have to work towards it. And you can't compare yourself to anyone else. I know that you mentioned that Claire had been here before doing an interview as well. And Claire went to college with me. Claire Lim Daltrick, another amazing certified trainer living out in New York. She went to college with me. She graduated a year after me. She did the certification the weekend before me. I could get really mad and be like, Claire, like, you want to go? This is competitive now. But it's just so not the case. I want to support her endlessly, and I feel the same support from her. So you just can't get lost in those kind of things, those kind of comparisons. You just got to, keep your head up, your ears up, and your mouth shut, and you do your thing.
And I think my picture of this is that actually one of the things that makes the world kind and gentle, like the world you're describing you live in, is being willing to be of service to others and being willing to you don't have to know everything before you can start helping somebody. And I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about Beats by Girlz and how you've used that and kind of started that with Erin. I mean, you were one of the very early root chapters.
Yeah, well, I was helping Erin out in Boston when she was trying to get that chapter together. I really wanted to be Erin's friend. It's kind of a funny story. She was the only person I knew who was using Ableton Live and could teach me Ableton Live. My major didn't really teach it to us. We learned Logic and Pro Tools, and gosh, I wanted to learn Live so badly. I kind of forced her to have coffee with me so I could pick her brain, and she's like, just take my class. And I'm like, no. I don't want to do that. I want you to like teach me privately. Like, I want to be your minion. And she was like, shut up, just take the class like everyone else, you know? And that's exactly what I did. I just did my best in every single avenue that I could, especially when in regards to her, because I just really wanted that validation from another woman who was also in the field. And she did. She gave me that validation by hiring me to be her assistant / Beats by Girlz liaison, helping curate these chapters. And to be honest, like the administrative part of it was just, it's really not me. I'm really good at emails, but that's not a job I want to have. So
many creative people feel that way. Many uncreative people feel that way too. I'll clue you in.
Yeah, I mean, you got to set that time so that you have that communication, because it's very, very important to respond to your emails, set that hour chunk in the morning. But it's just so not a place where I'm the happiest. So getting more involved with Beats by Girlz as a teacher was really fulfilling for me. And when you teach a kid something, maybe between the ages of 9 and 17, the language that you're using is very, very important, but you can kind of skim the surface. I don't have to really be like a session view, arrangement view, and these like clip view, and I don't have to be really on it. But as I started teaching these classes and I wanted to get better and I wanted them to understand more, then it was really me like digging deeper in the live manual to just be able to regurgitate all of these words. And then that got me just more comfortable with expressing and explaining what I was doing in live and what my goal was. And really just like the next step was then teaching to adults. And, then I got hired at Beat Lab Academy here in Los Angeles, which is a school owned by Yuda Benatar, who's another amazing certified trainer. If you can watch a YouTube video on him, he'll blow your mind. I learn something new every single time we talk. If I've got any questions on tour, know that Yuda can answer your phone call and answer all your questions. So he's fantastic. And that was such a great, next step from teaching with Beats by Girlz, really getting the information under my belt to then go and, do it on a more advanced level.
So that's fantastic, because I'm looking through the attendees right now. We have a couple of people in the room who we're trying to convince to become Beats by Girlz instructors because there's a huge demand. I mean, it's a great skill. It's a great tool to be able to express yourself as a human being. But it does look daunting when you first pop open live. And I just want to backfill. So Erin Barra is a professor now at the University of Arizona. Yeah. And she was at Berklee College of Music. She was an instructor there for a long time. She started this nonprofit, Beats by Girlz, that's now multiple chapters in the US, multiple chapters in Africa, multiple chapters in Europe. I mean, really widespread. And in fact, if you go to Coursera, the online free course, the Ableton Live course on Coursera, which has been taken like 100,000 times, I think, was developed by Erin. So you can meet her virtually there. Well, that's really terrific. I think you even, Beats by Girlz LA, you even had someone who went to the Grammys with Alicia Keys.
That was a pretty crazy experience. Yes. She's the music nonprofit, which is Alicia Keys's organization, reached out to Beats by Girlz, reached out to the LA chapter saying, hey, we want to give a ticket to a lucky girl and a chaperone. I became the chaperone, and our student Janira became the chosen one. It was a very, very fun time. There's a cute YouTube video on her and her story and the crazy week that happened before going to the Grammys. And they dressed her up, got her a whole new outfit. It was really, really fun. She got to meet Alicia. Wow. I didn't get to meet Alicia. I had to use the restroom so bad. I just had to, we were in traffic. We picked her up from the rehearsal space to take her to the movie shoot or whatever it was. And that was their bonding time, was this, 45 minutes stuck in LA traffic. It was pretty
Advantage.
extraordinary.
The advantage of LA traffic occasionally it works
Exactly.
for you. So tell us now what kind of things you're involved in now. I know you have you do performance. I think you mentioned you're doing Beat Labs classes.
Yeah, I'm not teaching as much. I got pretty burnt out during the pandemic. Just the 2D teaching just
Uh,
really I just became uninspired. Uh, so what I've been doing now that things have been opening up a little bit more is I'm back in the live situation. So I'm back in tours, back in gigs as a playback engineer, and that's kind of my bread and butter right now.
so tell us more what that means. What is that
So
like you're managing the live signals or you're kind of helping them design the kind of stage presence or
I run the Ableton live set for the show. So a playback
oh.
engineer clicks play essentially, but it's not just, the spacebar society. It is a little bit more, involved than that. I get the stems from the mix engineer. I line it up to the grid. We, have click automation with the tempo, making sure that it all sounds good. Everyone's happy with the level that things are at. And then, we'll bring a band in, take out most of the track, leave some things in that just can't be played. And during the show, I'm the person clicking play, cueing the rest of the show. So for someone like a Kanye West who doesn't have a band, maybe with his new stuff, with the choir and the church music, he might, but originally it was just tracks. So he had a playback engineer. And most people,
I see.
when they get to a higher level, do have playback engineers. Even if you're an indie rock band, there's some just things you can't recreate on the stage.
Sure.
So
and so I know, are you doing any live performances yourself now? Are you doing things on a YouTube channel? Do you have a social media presence you're pushing, or where are you in the internet space?
I'm there. I'm pretty humble on social media. I don't love it, but I like sharing photos and kind of keeping my friends in the know of what I'm doing because I'm a little bit of a poor communicator. So I'll just be gone for 2 weeks and I'll get a text. Where are you? Oh, I'm in Vegas. I've been in Vegas, man. So I try to post just to keep some sort of a presence there, but
Yeah,
it's not really
community.
me. I when I'm home, when I'm not on the road, I'm working on music. I've been working on an album for 3 years, but it's going really well. I enjoy it. I make music for me.
Yeah.
I became an Ableton certified trainer for me because I really wanted to do it, and it's really incredible that it's turned into a career. But
Hmm.
my music, my musicality, my showmanship, that's all for me. So if I get a call from someone from a Beats by Girls type who wants me to do a performance video, I'll totally put it together. But I'm not out there looking for gigs. We just, with the artist that I'm working with, we just did the Hollywood Bowl on
Oh
Saturday.
boy.
So I
Wow.
definitely get like that same anxious anxiety, like, oh, we're gonna play, but I'm on side stage. So I
Yeah.
get the same butterflies without all of the anxiety of like having to smile and look pretty. So that for me is like, you know, that's what I need to then just come home
Yeah.
and want to chill and not actually sing. You see like 400,000 people out there, you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to be famous actually. I don't think that's
Let
the
me
goal.
rethink this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go back in my room and make a beat by myself.
So it sounds like, I mean, you're so well grounded and you have a clear picture of who you are and what you want. How did pandemic help that? Did it focus you or did it throw everything into the blender?
That's another great question. It was interesting. I didn't struggle so hard during COVID because the very end of January last year, that's when I officially became a certified trainer. So I had the support of Ableton to really just get me through it. Being on their
Nice.
website, I was being sought after for private lessons. So instead of teaching big classes, I really focused on my private
Hmm.
students. That was really, really fun. And I was teaching people from all over the world, which was just
Wow.
it was
Wow.
extraordinary. I've got like a student in Hawaii, like one in London, one in Berlin, like some in New York, and honestly, like a lot in Los Angeles. We just
Uh-huh.
never met face to face. So that kept me afloat and kept me busy in live. So I didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
And then when things started opening back, uh, I was like, no. They're like, you want to go on tour? No, I love my home. I love my plants. My plants are all going to die if I leave. So I had a difficult time readjusting. And then, we went on a 10-day London run, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how much I love this.
Wait, there is a world outside my.
But to be honest, what has, I guess, brought me back down and keeps me level is live performances, is the stature of where I'm at. It's so intense. It's so intense. Kendall, I had to buy hair serum. My hair was falling out. It's so stressful. It's so, because of just the on that it is, like the artist, hey, I'm gonna airdrop you a song. Dude, we go on in 30 minutes. Are you serious? You're gonna airdrop me a new song? Okay. Like, I know I can do it. I know I can handle this, but it's just stressful. So honestly, when I'm not on the road, I come back and, someone hit my car, and it's, whatever, like the worst thing could happen. And
falling down the scale of.
I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's just a car. Like, no one's yelling at me. No one's screaming. Like, I can hear myself. I can hear my thoughts. Like, it's the intensity that is,
wow,
the job is just, it makes life feel
so that's
very
fascinating, because I was going to say, it's it can be a big transition to like being there with the Ableton manual and trying to figure everything out and prepping for that certification and, kind of building a community, but then sliding into the role of instructor, and especially in a one-on-one environment where you're the guru, like you're, there's almost this implicit feeling sometimes that you must know everything. I mean, which of course every teacher who's been doing it knows. You don't know what maybe half. I mean, you're happy if you don't have, people who know other places, other parts of it, and you can put it together. But I was going to say, gee, how was that transition for you? But when I hear what your stage life is like and the pressures there, the teaching maybe wasn't so stressful.
I mean, teaching has its ups and downs. I'd had some students that I was like, you want to go outside? I'll kick your ass. Honestly, like, just like a lot of crap at being a woman, and just being like blatantly hit on. It's like,
oh, jeez.
I will just, you don't know me. You don't know. You think it's calm now, but I have Latin roots, I will tell you. And I just, you just kind of brush that stuff off, because there are so much more worse people out there. So with teaching, compared to being on the road, I think just like knowing that you don't know anything and being open about that, they've asked me, hey, can you record the show as well? I'm like, you want me to output all of the sound and input all of the sound? Are you serious? You think that's going to be good? You think that's a good idea? Like, no, I'm not doing that. So you have to be able to know your limits in any way. If it's teaching, if someone asks a great question that I don't know the answer to, you find new ways to either say, great question, I don't know, or cool, that's a really great question. If you were at home, what are the keywords that we can use to Google that? Because, the manual's not going to, if you Google LFO thingy, that's not going to come up. You got to really know the device that you're talking about in order to find the answers that you need. So I encourage anyone in that position to just find whatever technique it is to expose that you don't know that information, and give people the actual avenue or the actual route to figure that out, because you're only going to have that class for a couple hours. You might not ever see that student again. It could just be a one-off workshop. But if you can at least just like instill the confidence for them to troubleshoot it themselves, then you're golden.
Right.
I feel like that's all I'm doing half the time in the live situation or in the classroom. It's just like troubleshooting. And I feel like that's my job. I'm a professional troubleshooter. And there's times when I really don't know the answer and I need to, we've had problems all the time. And I've called my buddy, and I'm just like screaming at him, trying to get the answer. And he's just like, I hope you're not screaming at anyone else. I'm like, no, dude, it's just you. I'm just getting my frustration out. Everyone thinks I'm cool as a cucumber, but like you and I need to figure this out right now. So you have your buddies that you trust to for that call.
Phone a friend. Yeah.
Exactly. But
So yeah.
I think it's hard to find those people. And I think that's like, as a teacher, that's where I started losing my inspiration to continue, was that I wasn't being stimulated by equal-minded people. Like,
Mhm.
Yuta wasn't always there, you know? So if I can't call on Yuta, then, sometimes you hit that brick wall. But
Yeah.
it's about being professional enough to go over that.
So I think that keeps a lot of people out of tech too. I mean, kind of part of what I'm hearing is that, my background's more computer science engineering. And so that's the flavor of it though, right? I mean, if you wanted to always know the answer, you would do something like math where, like I can prove this to you perfectly. There's an answer to this problem. I'll do it.
Absolutely.
But we, as a technologist, we kind of live in a space where, it's, you've got to be happy when it doesn't work. You've got to be like, wow, I've never seen that not work before. This is going to be a cool puzzle. Let's figure. And it's hard to do that when you're under stress for time.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
So we say that to students when they leave their homework to the end, like, this is going to be way less fun when you're trying to figure this out with a near deadline. But I think maybe there's almost like I don't know. Do you think it's a personality type, or do you think it's
Oh
something you
yeah.
cultivated, like a
Oh
mindset
yeah.
that
No, you can't teach someone to want to be a troubleshooter. I've had private lessons where I'm teaching them how to build their live set for performance, and it'll be like, I don't know how that happened. I'm like, well, the answer is not that there's a ghost in your computer. Okay, it wasn't just like a little, minion in there messing with stuff. Like, either you did something, or there was a power cycle that, wasn't in the right order. That's one thing that we ran into recently. We had a show, and I couldn't get this connection to go to the DJ. Just, these devices were not shaking hands. And it turns out it was just like, hey, did you try turning it off and on again? And it was a power cycle issue. It was the fact that, you turn this digital interface on and it didn't shake hands. It gets to step 1, step 2, step 3.
so the
It's idle on
sequence in
step
which they
3.
wake up.
It
Yeah.
won't, it's on 3 for like 5 minutes, and then that device doesn't get plugged in that window, and then it goes to step 6, 7, and 8, and then you try plugging it in later and they're not going to shake hands. It's just dumb things like that. But if you're willing to take the time and just really narrow down on the issue, swap the cable. Did that work? No. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Yes, that worked. Okay, great. So there's an order here, an order of operations. And learning that at the 10th show, I was like, wow, it's kind of crazy that it took that long, but now that's never ever going to happen again,
Yeah, I think too, like one of the, like, that's a deep problem, right? So there's like deep knowledge and there's shallow knowledge, right? So like deep knowledge, you have a general model in your mind of how the signals are flowing and what's happening. But the shallow knowledge is like, oh, wait, that cable flakes out 1 every 10 times. Oh, you know what? Like, let me go down through the hardware all the way. Like when we teach MIDI, we talk about this, right? Like you can just say, oh, yeah, MIDI, I don't know, it's sending something back and forth. But I like when you get down to the level where you can say, I know exactly the bit pattern that's supposed to be sent. Because then there's nothing below that floor. Like you actually can start at the bottom and work your way up and debug this. But you're right, it's hard to find that kind of information. You end up piecing it together yourself from a community of people and from a community of sources, so that you can kind of live through those stress-filled moments.
Yeah, I mean, they're immensely stressful, but in a live situation, if that artist looks back at me and I'm like, then I'm gonna get fired, because that person's like, what the heck's going on? I've got to be like, shit. At the same show, we have redundancy, right? So if computer A fails, computer B will kick in and we're good. I saw that computer A started failing, and computer A switches to computer B in terms of the playback, but computer A handles this artist's auto tune. So I'm like, you know what? I've never seen computer A crash. I'm just going to let it crash. I'm just going to see what happens, because I love troubleshooting and I want to know what's going to happen. Well, you know what happened is it started sending auto-tune messages out to console, which is how we're running our auto-tune, and it starts changing the key while he's performing. And it was a sound check, granted. That's why I let it crash. I would have done something. And He's like, whoa. And he's like, what the heck's happening? I was like, oh, hey, sorry, computer A is crashing. He's like, will you make sure that doesn't happen live? I'm like, yeah, of course. I promise. And
That's the thing,
thankfully
right?
he's a good artist and trusts me that I got his back. But at the same time, like that was a little bad on my part. Like I should have stepped in. But I was learning. I learned
Well,
something.
how else, that comes up in electronics too, right? Like sometimes exactly what you said. How else are you going to know? Like you can't reproduce it.
Mhm.
You can't just say, oh, I'm going to go over there tomorrow at 11 o'clock and make computer A fail 6 times in a row till I
Exactly.
figure out.
And I didn't panic either. And that's the most important thing. He always said, hey, I'm sorry. It's computer A is crashing. I didn't say, oh my God, dude, it's for crashing. Oh my God. I was just like, hey, it's crashing. I'm just checking it out. Like, we're good. It's just sound check. I know it's not ideal, but I got you, and then you just keep moving and
That's
that never happens
fantastic.
again.
So I wish Jen were here because I think this is a lesson. Kyle, you probably have heard this many times from Jen. I mean, Jen is very big on teaching this in terms of, being a producer, running a studio, and how you need to handle the artist.
Yeah.
And that a big part of your job is not picking the microphone. It's making sure the artist feels safe.
Mm-hmm.
And comfortable. And that's what I hear you doing, right? Even at the cost to your own sanity, you make sure that you're providing a safe space. And there are tricks to doing that. I mean, you're telling us some already. Like one is the way that you use your voice. It's the look that's on your face. It's how you plan out what you're going to do when computer A crashes. It depends that you'll have a different response if it's during the live performance or during the sound check. So there are a lot of tricks, but I mean, how do you think the community what kind of community supports you in this? Are you learning this all kind of like on the go? Or, I mean, you have your one call a friend, Bud, but is there more to the world you're in?
I got into it because I was doing it for myself. I was building my own live sets for me to perform, and I was running auto-tune in a very unstable way, and I didn't have redundancy, but I understood how all of that worked. Luckily for me, when I first moved out to Los Angeles, I started working for a guy named Henry Strange. Henry Strange is an incredible inventor. He builds software, hardware, and he is a playback engineer. His first big thing was Kanye and Drake and all those guys, all those people that need a playback engineer who don't have a band. So he built a plugin called Setlist. It's a Max for Live device, and it's basically a marker, arranger, and locator for arrangement view. So it just makes the playback engineer's job a lot easier. Instead of having, a controller and every song is on a different MIDI note, he has condensed it down so that all you have is play, stop, next, and previous. So wherever you put a locator, that becomes a song title within the plugin of Setlist. Makes the job so easy. And I came out to LA when I was 20, and didn't have much. I was walking dogs. I was like doing whatever I could to make some money, and he hired me, and I did the manual for Setlist. I made all the tutorial videos for Setlist.
Wow.
Though no one would hire me for a tour because I was so green, I knew the software really, really well. So now I go out on tour, I'm meeting, Post Malone's playback engineer, and everyone's using Setlist. It's so crazy. It's really nuts to go to London and see all these people doing it. And I'm like, hey, you can like put some extra programming in here. And like, I'm teaching them stuff, and it's my first show,
Wow.
So
wow. Yeah.
I just like met as many people as I could in the industry, even though that was just me building a network for 4 years until I actually got a call to do something. So, you have to put in those hours. You kind of have to be an assistant. You kind of, whatever that work is for you, to just be surrounded by those people. Because then, 4 or 5 years later, Setlist, oh, there's a new update. Danielle, please do another YouTube video. Like, it's your voice. We want to keep it consistent. Okay. All right. Well, I brought someone as well. Who's going to like do some beta testing for Setlist. His name's Chris. Chris is my phone a friend. Chris is the person who hired me. Chris was like, wait, you've never been on tour? You're so good at live. I was like, I did a tour once, and I wasn't even a playback engineer. I was Imogen Heap's Ableton tech. she doesn't need a playback engineer. She's doing everything. Like, so he gave me a shot. And, once you get that one chance, once you get that one gig, people respect you. You have that credit. So that it just became full circle, years later. Same guy, same place.
Isn't
Just,
that something?
yeah, it was the network, just this
Yeah.
guy, he's a playback engineer. He knows a lot of playback engineers. When I go to the show, I'm not talking to the artist. I don't care about who's mixing in front of house. I'm like, ooh, like your setup is so nice. You only have one cable in your computer. Like, show me your signal flow. Just nerding out.
So how much do you think location made a difference? The fact that you were in Los Angeles?
For this artist in particular, I mean, a lot of tours leave out of Los Angeles, but a lot of tours leave out of Atlanta. A lot of tours leave out of Nashville, New York as well. I think, playback specifically, it's like this weird backdoor because into the industry specifically, because not, I didn't need a playback engineer. I just built it myself. The band that I work with, and, they don't need a playback engineer until they get to that level because some people might think it's an easy thing to do, so they might just implement it themselves, or they don't have enough money to pay another person. They might really be more worried up front of house and how that sounds, which was like where I was. I was like, the first thing I'm going to buy or pay for is someone to mix me live because that'd be better than a random stranger doing it. So it's this strange backdoor. So my first show with this artist was like the Reading and Leeds Festival, 400,000 people. Just nuts, But that, because of that shortcut that you really have to be a pro. And not even a pro, like, you have to be a certified trainer. Because Chris, my buddy, who's done all these, he's not certified at all, and I'm trying to push him to do so. But, there's, it's just like an interesting position. But for me, the reason why I like it is because I just get to rock Ableton live all the time. And it's something that I really wanted to be good at. And the fact that I can make a career out of just being quick at live is really awesome.
Like, tell us your impression of the company, because I mean, we've seen them as educators, we see them on a different level. So for example, when they came out with Push 2, they started a program. I think Erin was behind this a bit, right? And they called back your Push 1 and they gave your Push 1 to all kinds of schools. You got a discount on Push 2 and they distributed out a bunch of Push 1s. They've supported Beats by Girlz. They were great, for example, at the college when the pandemic happened and we had 20 computers with live, but we couldn't get to the lab. Yeah. So we were like, I guess we're screwed. And they were like, no, here, we'll help you. I mean, I will say Pro Tools did not say that. Pro Tools said, here's the number that you need to call to pay us.
If you have to subscribe to your DAW, I love Pro Tools. I'll be honest. I think it's a great DAW. But no, I don't pay for it. My boyfriend has it and I have his license. Like, But Ableton as a company is just absolutely extraordinary. They really look out for their CTs. They looked out for me before I was a CT. They saw my passion and, not that they gave me a shot or anything, but I was on their radar. And so I'd go up, at the Loop conference or wherever and introduce myself to more people and just try to like get well connected with them. But as a liaison for them, I suppose, I just kind of like, as an ambassador, if you will, right. They are so supportive. They've got such a niche brand and their DAW itself is just so spectacular that I think that they understand what they're bringing to the table and they know that there's so many different types of users for live. Right. You've got the person who's building Max for live devices. You got the person making trap beats in their room. You got the person who's just like a singer-songwriter starting out and like adding acoustic drums or samples and playing things in themselves. There are so many different type approaches to Ableton Live, and they're really, really supportive of all of it. Any way that someone's being creative with music, they want to be a part of it. If that means supporting them with education, that means supporting them financially, if that means supporting them with hardware, with the push buyback initiative, whatever it is, the company itself is so rad. Never met a company like that.
I tell you an example, right? I know you were there, right? Los Angeles had Loop, right? A couple of years back,
Hmm.
like the only Loop I've ever gotten to go to because of circumstances, right? But so we walk in and there's somebody running Pro Tools on the stage. And the guy next to me is like, what's going on? Like, how are they allowing them to run Pro Tools when they
They
sell
don't
a
care.
competing product and this is their big event? And it was clear. It was like, you know what? This is about music. And
About
like
music creation,
everybody, yeah,
exactly.
like everybody's welcome, and we'll talk about all kinds of ideas. And I think that's a great lesson. I think I would love to see that more, that idea
Yeah.
promulgated across a lot of fields, because it makes everybody better.
One of the loop workshops that I went to in Berlin the year prior was a what do they call it? A writer's block workshop. And they had someone who uses live, someone who actually like is in all of those Ableton Live tutorial videos that they post on YouTube. A machine drum who uses a lot of analog. And then, oh gosh, what's her name? I'm totally blanking. Female guitarist. No. Khaki King. Khaki King was there too. Khaki King does not use Ableton Live. She just plays guitar. She's just an amazing guitarist. So this panel was just incredible. Like the insight, you know? And just
Yeah.
one person uses live just to kind of like bring it back to like why we all like
Little
got the ticket,
subtitle.
you know? But I love that they're just like wanting to get different opinions, different POVs, different approaches to music because if when I hear Khaki King talk about her starting a song on the guitar, I can apply that exact same, approach to me starting it out with my guitar in live.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
and then my boyfriend who loves Pro Tools, he's gonna do the same thing with Pro Tools. Like it doesn't matter what the DAW is; that's just the
Yeah.
vehicle of creation. But y-
I think
you know,
it's kind of human nature, right? You see the same thing with computers, right? So there's this like religious fervor over, are you Mac or are you Windows? And quite honestly, you see it pretty ferociously in your field. I mean,
yeah,
right in the music field, there are like lines drawn, and like it's like it's really not that way, right? Like when you are at an altitude where you're seeing things from a larger perspective, there are advantages and disadvantages, and you
of
learn them
course.
and you apply the right tool at the right time, and you're a happier person for it.
And everyone has their preference. Like
Yeah.
that's I like to think like you have your Mac and your PC, but you also have your JH Audio and your Ultimate Ears. These are like two in-ear brands that are, I like to think of it in the same comparison of Mac versus PC. So, but again, it's just preference.
Yeah.
Like,
And a lot of times, like I know some people are just in love with the first DAW they ever used.
yeah,
I mean, there's just connotation. You remember, whether it's something that you think about or not, if it's subconscious or not, there are just connotations there, and memories of the excitement that you had when you came to the field. So
totally.
what kind of things do you see coming down in terms of technology? I mean, we're hearing about, we know MPE now, Ableton 11 came out with support for MPE, and we know that MIDI 2.0s keeps being talked about, and some devices are out there, I guess. I haven't seen like a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
haven't.
movement there.
I've only seen the articles like that
Yeah.
like something got released, but yeah, MIDI 2.0 is definitely taking its time. Um, what's
Is there
n-
anything that you see like around the corner that you're excited about, or something that would make your life easier? I mean, I'm happy to say, because of course in our course we do a bit of Max and a bit of Ableton. So I'm
Mhm.
really delighted to hear that like one of the big kingpins that launched you was this idea that somebody saw a problem and they said, you know what, I could program a better solution. And they didn't have to go to C or C++ and try and, work from first principles. They could go to Max and use Max to develop something that's really changed that role for a lot of people.
And not only change the role, but like make money. This guy's
Yeah.
made a lot of money. He actually has made the most money off of any Max for Live device in the history of time. Like it's just
In the history of time.
absolutely incredible, you know. So there's so many approaches that which is what I just really like. Like you could just be a bedroom producer, or you could be making bank building awesome instruments, awesome devices or effects. You know, it, the world is your oyster, and with live, it's ever expanding. So I don't see anything specific that is getting me excited, other than the fact that, I'm good at what I do, but I'm good at like this tiny, tiny thing. If I had a problem with that Max for Live device personally, I would have to phone that friend and be like, how do I virtually connect these cables? What's happening? I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to put those pieces together. So for me, my next big thing is becoming, Cycling 74 Mac certified, and just like
Yeah.
continuing to get better at my job, because that's what I'm feeling is the career move. In
Hmm.
terms of like MPE, I love MPE. Like I became obsessed with
And
MIDI,
let's
but
for
that was the
the
foundation,
yeah,
that
for
was
the
the
full
foundation.
audience, let me ask you to explain MPE the way that you would as a musician, because we have a
MIDI
bunch of people.
MPE stands for MIDI polyphonic expression. So the way that I like to think about it is, you play a chord and you pitch bend that chord. If you pitch bend that chord, every single note in that chord is going to be bent, right? But with MPE, every single note is actually living on its own MIDI channel. So you could just be moving one finger and have it, pitch bend or change the filter cutoff. You just have a lot more control. Um, and I like MPE because I think it's really difficult, especially when you're performing electronic music, to have people understand this or this. It's so bland. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll see people doing stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I want to understand.
Yeah.
Um, and with MPE, you can like, you know, play that chord and like push into it and like do something crazy with the lead line and like really put your emotion into it, that physicality of moving forward, backward, side to side, and have the audience really, really understand that. So I like using MIDI controllers that are a little strange, that maybe send MPE. One of the controllers that I really like right now is the Wave Genki Instruments. Excuse me, I like messed that up. Genki Instruments is the brand. Wave is the ring. It's a Bluetooth ring that you can control X, Y, and rotation. So I play guitar and I put my hand out here and I've delayed my guitar, or I put it up here and now I've got reverb on that guitar. So I'm all about like just getting my hands on something that's like a little bit interesting and just show and really using my body as a gesture for the music. And I feel like with
Hmm.
MPE, that opens up so many more worlds.
We've had a lot of folks come in and talk about this, right? The idea that electronic music is so sophisticated and so capable of creating so many different moods, but it's so challenging to involve the audience. And we had Melody Lovelace in last time, and she's
Nice.
right one of the certified
Mm-hmm.
Max instructors. And so she has a small group that does, like algo raves, like, right, like they weren't using Max, they were using Sonic Pi, I think. But so live coding, right, going up and people seeing and watching the coding as they change in real time. And I think there's a group that would love to just even see your live setup, and kind of be watching like what's happening as you perform. But when you get to the size audiences that you're talking about, that's probably not too viable, right? That's
One thing I've learned is that the higher, the more important the show is, the less things are happening, right? So the less things that can go wrong.
interesting. Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of safety nets that we have to make sure that it's a perfect show. So yeah, the artist I'm working
Yeah.
with as of late is not going to pull out that ring and affect their vocal, because that it could go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it at my tiny show, because if it goes wrong, I'm gonna laugh at myself or like, run back home and fix the programming. But if I mess up the show for someone else, then that's a way, way bigger problem.
So how does that feel for you? Is that limiting, or does it feel like there's some kind of anchor, there's some base of stability? Like it's not always going to be a crisis. There's some repeatable level you can get to.
Yeah, it's just different,
Uh-huh.
because with my live show, I just practice it 100 times, So,
Yeah.
if I don't trigger that next scene, the chorus doesn't come in. I don't have follow actions. I don't have any safety nets, because I don't. If I mess up, I want the audience to know that I messed up. That's my live performance, is that
Uh-huh.
this is actually live, you know.
Right.
But with someone else who is paying me to make sure that it's a perfect show, I'm definitely not going to set up the show that way. But even I know it sounds lame, but even clicking play can be very, very stressful. I the first playback gig I ever did was with Flo Millie, and she just goes, "Play that shit," and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's me! Oh my god, that's me! That's me! That's me!" Whoa, like you don't. That's the thing. Like, just even hearing the cues can be super, super stressful, or you push it too soon.
Yeah.
Hey, stop the track. Shh, damn it, I messed up. Or whatever it is. So having these different approaches for live, my, you know, very, very loose setup versus the very structured setup that I have to build. We can meet in the middle so that if there is any crazy idea, I'm like, okay, yeah, actually, I can do that for you. I can set that up. Oh, you want to be playing this MIDI controller? All right, well, I'm going to give you like two pads. I'm going to still limit the possibility for problems. You get two
Uh-huh.
pads. Um, I'm very specific about where the MIDI's coming in from. We don't just say like MIDI from all ins, right? Like, because I've set up 40 controllers for my live set, I can, really set up a MIDI track and a solution for them that's going to be just as bubble wrapped, if you will, you know?
Yeah. So what role does music play in your life now when you're a musician professionally? What role does it play in your life when you're not at work? Like, do you hear music differently? Are you constantly analyzing when you go to a show? Or can you
Of
find
course.
music that you just like kind of run to when you go on your jogs and you just let it flow over you? Or is that lost now that you're a professional?
It's been lost for many, many years. But I don't mind it. I've always been really interested in sounds, and what really got me into building live sets was actually Saint Vincent. I was a singer songwriter. Her guitar, I was like, wait, that's a guitar? I don't understand. So I got into sound design. So then I'm doing that with analog with pedals, right? But then I wanted to bring it into a digital domain. So I start
Mhm.
rocking live. Then I watched Lynda.com's tutorial with St. Vincent's musical director, and he talks about how he built her live set. I'm like, oh, cool. So I could do that too with all the stuff I just did. So I just stepped by step figured out how to perform live. But I think that because that it was such a light bulb, it was a switch that went
Mhm.
off. I don't ever try to turn that off, because that gets me excited about music. It makes me
Yeah.
very judgmental about music as well, but I do have a pretty open mind, having gone to Berklee College of Music, having grown up with a dad who likes dad rock, and you know I went to Berklee with the intention of being a music therapist or a songwriter, and my first class was music tech, and my first DAW was Reason, and that's why I switched, because Reason is awful. Um, that's the only reason I didn't stick with the first DAW I ever tried. Um, but it just, for me, I just kept, peeling back another layer until I was now, programming a live set, which was
Mhm.
not the intention. The intention was, how do I become a famous singer songwriter? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then, digging to, okay, I got to make a demo. All right, well, let's make this demo sound great. Oh, well, my mic sounds like crap. Oh, well, my guitar, you just kept, I just kept, peeling back these layers until I found what I'm really good at. Because once I started recording myself, I was like, oh, I can't sing that
This is
well.
harder than
Yeah, my guitar does not sound like Kurt Cobain's guitar, actually. So I started like judging myself quite harshly, but then also figuring out how to make myself sound better, how to make myself sound
Mhm.
good the way that I wanted to. Auto-tune, throw that on. Hey, now there I am. That's great. That's what I thought I sounded like. Um, just like fixing, processing until I got really comfortable making music for myself, and then now I hear a song, I'm like, ah, it's just auto tuned. And I'm judging that in a negative way, but it's also because I'm not trying to be that person. So, I know that insight, or I know that sound, if.
Mhm.
So it just becomes, I guess, it just becomes what you want it to be. If you love listening to music, then don't try to overanalyze it all, because you're not going to enjoy it too much. Like the Beatles. I don't know how to play one Beatles song on the guitar, and that's very, very intentional. It's because I love them so, so much. And
That's cool.
if I analyzed it, if I broke it down, I don't think I'd have the same passion about it, because to me it's just a wash. And I'm not gonna overanalyze them. I refuse to. I can listen to the song 100 times and get the structure. And the structure, I mean, as a producer, that's the hardest thing, is getting the arrangement. So you can do that, but like, breaking it down sound by sound. Yeah, it's just, for me, I won't do it to the Beatles. I'll do it to like Seb Deliza. I'll break her stuff down. A Grimes track, I'm like, oh yeah, let me throw that into live and see how her bass, what's going on down there. I'll break that down, but you have to kind of pick some of the musicians that just inspire the crap out of you. Like Bjork, it's not going to happen. I'm not getting into that. That's her, and I'm just going to leave that be. But of course, I can't turn off, the fact that I'm like, oh, that sound. Oh, wow, she went from this low end thing to this high end thing. You can't copyright low end thing to high end thing. You just, steal like an artist and try to implement.
I remember I went to the movies with Professor Jay once, and we were sitting there, and I'm like, wow, I like this soundtrack. And she leaned in and she goes, oh, that's such and such preset from Omnisphere. It's
Yep.
Then like that, like, oh my gosh. Like this. But
Yes.
one of the things that you're mentioning that's important for students to, and by the way, if anyone has questions, please just drop them in the chat. We'll fire them in the last few minutes here. We call it in educational circles like a growth mindset. And so, nobody is born knowing these things. So whatever field you're in, you're going to make mistakes. There are going to be things you can't do. There's going to be disappointments, and your mind has a choice. And right, the one choice is to say, okay, I'm going to find out a way to figure this out. I'll find out who to call. I'll find the page in the manual. This is a puzzle and I'll figure it out. And then the other option is to say, wow, see, this just proves I'm no good. I don't belong here. I'm never going to have this happen. You see this stuff. And that's something we really try and work on for our students, because many of them come from backgrounds where that message has been repeated so many times that it's automatic for them to say, oh, see, I'll never be anything in music, because when I sing, my voice doesn't sound the way, my guitar doesn't sound like Kurt Cobain's guitar. So I'll never be. But what you're showing us is that you went out and found resources, for example, like the lynda.com video that Danielle is talking about, you have access to because the college gives you a LinkedIn Learning account for free.
You must do it.
You must go in there.
Your account will deactivate after school, okay? I watched so much lynda.com in college. You must take advantage. You must.
I know, we are preaching. I tried to get this here for 10 years, and we're very grateful to our president for making it. It's so unbelievable, right?
Good.
So you found things like that opened the possibility in your mind that, you know what, no, it's not that I don't belong. And I mean, we glossed over it a little bit, but there are challenges to being kind of a minority group in this field, whether you're a person of color, whether you're a woman. I mean, there are a lot of minority groups in this particular field.
But I think, one thing that helped me was doing other things but music. Riding my bike. I ride my bike here. The hills are gnarly. Instead of saying, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, when I'm going up the hill, I say, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. You just change the narrative. And I'm not saying I'm doing this, and it's going great. I'm just like, you're doing this. You're going to get up on that hill. Like, that is what's going to happen, and you're not going to stop, and that flipping that in my head has really helped when I am in those situations, because I am the person with the answers. If I don't click play, if something goes wrong, it is my job to figure it out. If I say I can't do this, then I will hit that wall. You manifest those kind of things in your head. And I know everyone hates that manifestation thing, but if you keep saying that you're crap, if you keep saying you're not going to make it, you're telling yourself something. You have to rework that for yourself, because there's definitely been times where I was like, this is not going well, but you have to persevere.
Let me pass along a question from Nick we have here. It was a really great presentation. What's something you wish you had learned or were told sooner in your career? The $64 million question.
And my answer to that is the best fertilizer is shit. You have to make shit in order for your flowers to grow. So like the first few tracks I made, y'all, they were shit. I'm sorry. I don't know. I should have asked you if I could curse. I've obviously been on the road with this potty mouth here. But Pat Pattinson said that to me. And he is the author of Writing Better Lyrics, an incredible book. And he was one of my professors. I took a poetry class with him. And he said, the best fertilizer is shit. So just know at the very beginning, it's all going to be bad. It's going to be really, really hard. And you have to get through that shit. You got to just, I remember when I first started making music in live, I was showing my tracks to everyone. I'm like, this sounds so bad. It's bad. How do I make it better? And they'd be like, oh, have you tried using automation? Oh, I don't know how to automate in live. Okay, cool. All right, well, hey, do you know about this device? You know, I asked everyone how they would make this track better. And then I threw those tracks away and then made another song and just kept making, I was just making bad music. I probably made like 50 awful tracks until I got to the 51st track and said, okay, I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one. And then the next one, I like this one even more. You have to get through that shit. I wish someone told me that a little sooner because yeah, I beat myself up on those shit tracks.
That's right.
Sure.
It's a voice that you hear in your head. And I think there's like a quote from Hemingway that's like, you know, cracks are okay. That's the way the light gets in. Mm-hmm. So like you have to have mistakes and cracks and brokenness or you don't grow. Yeah. And it's sad. I mean, you wish it was easier, but if it was easier, you wouldn't have the same benefit. So
and there's different mistakes too. Like my boyfriend being a mix engineer, a studio engineer, if he makes a mistake, it might actually work out. If he copies and pastes wrong, that could be the best mistake ever. In live, if you make a mistake, you're fired. And it is just a completely different mindset, you know? But on the other hand, I don't think I could be in the studio for 12 hours a day. Yeah. Like, I would be like, guys, I'm so done. Get me out of here. But he couldn't go on stage and click play. You know, he'd probably just sweat so bad he like would miss the button. So you find your niche in it all because there's so many different paths to take, even just using Ableton Live. You could be that Max for Live device builder. You could be the person clicking play. You could be the hottest producer that wins a Grammy next year. You could do whatever you want in this style, and that's what makes it so special.
Oh, terrific. Well, we have more thanks. It was an amazing session. Thanks for sharing your journey with us. And on that, I'm going to close us out. We want to be mindful of your time. But Danielle, it's just so great to hear your voice again and to hear what's happening in your career. It's so exciting. We really appreciate you taking the time, especially early morning time, to come talk to our students. And we're really grateful. We wish you just the best things. And we'll be watching for you all over the place on the few times that you post on social media. The videos that you put up are all very meaningful to us. So thank you again for being here and best wishes.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. These questions are actually really stimulating. I think that everyone should rewatch it and ask themselves the same exact questions. I really appreciate it.
Oh, that's terrific to hear. Well, thanks so much. We're going to be passing this around on our YouTube channel. We'll have it on classes, make available to a bunch of different classes and different disciplines. And so we appreciate you being willing to be so vulnerable and honest because it's hard to open up. It's hard to kind of talk openly about your most private thoughts. And I think it's really benefited a lot of students today.
Oh, anytime. I'm an open
Thanks
book.
so much. Thanks so much. So that's it for this episode of Computational Music. We have Kyle Duffeld, another certification expert, a Max certified trainer from Toronto, the next session that we meet together. And until then, we'll see you live.
Bye, everyone.
Danielle, that was just awesome.
Oh, Kendall, thank you so much for having me. That was so fun.
Awesome. I know. Honestly, you know, they all go differently. And like some people, oh, thank you from Kyle to Danielle. I mean, some people are just like they just want to come in and run their PowerPoint. And, you know, that's really cool. And we do that with some people. And some people want to come in and they just want to do the workshop that they've got prepped, you know. And some people, you know, we just talk. And when we talk, sometimes the most amazing stuff appears. And I'm really grateful to you for taking this much time and being willing to, you know, kind of fill in all these gaps. These students are just starting out. It's very hard. And sadly, we're not in Los Angeles. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't have, Nick, another awesome presentation. Thanks, that people really appreciated this.
Yeah, it was really fun. I guess like I think it's really difficult when you're at that like student level to know what avenue you could take. I didn't know playback was a thing when I got to
No,
school, And when
right?
I left, that was the goal, and it took 5 years till I got the gig. So it is a journey. It's a total journey, but I think what you have to have is confidence. You have to have confidence in yourself. You have to know that if you don't know how you're going to get there, that you got that phone a friend, that you know the key words to Google it in the manual, that you've got the manual on books. You can airdrop it to yourself, and you've got 700 pages of the live manual right there if you need it. But with that said, it's just going to be a lot harder if you don't have that confidence, because that confidence can turn into an ego, which is the problem. But what should humble you is the fact that anyone else can do your job. That you have the confidence when you walk into the room, but you have to be humbled by the fact that anyone else can do this job, that you're not number one. And
Right.
that's what's going to have to push everyone to keep going. Because as a female, like, I've definitely dealt with this stuff. I've definitely dealt with people thinking I don't know the answer, but I never stopped.
Mm-hmm. I've got to tell you, it jars me every time I see it. I remember at Sweetwater had their big festival, and Erin was there presenting, and Ben was there from Ableton, right? So Ben's standing in the side of the room. Erin's got an enormous presentation. She's going through the whole thing. She did a fantastic job. The first question comes up, and the guy stands up and turns his back to Erin to look at Ben and ask Ben the question.
Oh my
gosh. So,
See,
it happens to everybody. You got to kind of have some Teflon.
Yeah, I wonder how Erin handled that one, but people are just gonna, no matter who you are, they're gonna think that you don't know something. If you're a male, you're not gonna deal with that as often, but knowing that means like going into the next situation, if there is a female, you cannot undermine. Everyone I'm working with is a dude, but they know I know my stuff. Like, they know that I'm going to do my job, and I need them to do theirs too. So if you have that sexist mindset, you're not going to go far, because I'm telling you, like, the amount of respect that people have for me, I think it helps that I'm a girl. I think they're like, good, finally. We're tired of all these dudes on the tour. Just get a girl out here. It sounds fun. And they appreciate me, and they know I'm going to do a good job. So if that's the mindset, yeah, that's why the guy's in the audience, and that's why he has a question.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay? Like, that's the dumbest crap I've ever heard.
So everybody's just more comments flooding into the chat. So Danielle, I'll let you run, but again, thanks so much. It's so great to see you. Let me know anytime you're on the East Coast. I hope that we run into each other at events sometime in the next 10 years. I don't know when things are really going to be open.
If it's not Loop 2022, it's Loop 2023. I'll see you there.
That's right. All right.
All right, Kendall, take care.
Thanks so much.
Thanks again.